Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general thoughts on the thing. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Next week's episode is going to be our Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of series wrap up. So check back in for that. And yeah, this week it's just going to be a quick solo one from me. I'm going to be talking about Beyond Infinity, Buzz and the Journey to Lightyear. And this is basically a 35-minute documentary up on Disney Plus about kind of the history of the Buzz Lightyear character and kind of the decision and what has gone into turning that character into the Lightyear movie that is out today, effectively as I'm recording this. That's why I picked it. I picked this in honor of Pixar's return to the big screen. They've not been in theaters. Pixar movies have not been released in theaters, at least wide release, since Onward, right kind of before / leading into the pandemic. Obviously, Soul came afterwards, and then we had what was after Soul? I know it was Soul, Turning Red. Oh, Soul, Luca, then Turning Red, and those were our pandemic era Pixar movies that always went straight to Disney Plus. So yeah, but Buzz Lightyear kind of making the leap back to the big screen for Pixar here. The documentary here was originally released June 10th, 2022. As I said, has about a runtime of roughly 35 minutes. The director is Tony Kaplan, who has also directed a series of other Pixar documentary, short form documentary things, including the Pixar Shorts, A Short History, as well as Inside Pixar, which is a series of episodic documentaries, I believe, also on Disney Plus. No real writer for this one, but it does feature many Pixar notables, including Angus MacLean, who is the writer and director of Lightyear. He was also the director of Finding Dory and has been at Pixar Animation since Jerry's Game and A Bug's Life. So nearly the beginning, came in seemingly right after Toy Story in those early days. Pete Docter is featured heavily in here. He is currently the chief creative officer. He was also the director of Monsters, Inc., Up, Inside Out, and Soul. Galen Sussman is a Pixar producer going back to the days of Ratatouille. Andrew Stanton was the director of Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, WALL-E, John Carter, and Finding Dory alongside Angus MacLean. He was also the writer of all of the Toy Story films, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, WALL-E, and John Carter. Lee Unkrich he was the director of Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, and most recently Coco. Jason Headley is the writer of Onward, as well as a co-writer on Lightyear. And then we get a couple stars from the film in Chris Evans taking on, of course, the iconic role of Buzz Lightyear, taking over from Tim Allen. And, of course, Chris Evans, known, for many years now as Captain America over in the MCU, as well as many other fun projects like Knives Out or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And then also featured in this is Uzo Aduba, who is playing Alicia Hawthorne in Lightyear, probably best known to many audiences as her role as Suzanne Crazy Eyes in Orange is the New Black from Netflix. Don't really have any trivia for this. I'm sure we'll eventually do a Lightyear episode where we'll have all sorts of the typical Pixar trivia to go alongside that. But this was a fun little documentary. It's a quick little thing, and I won't spend a ton of time really diving into it. But they kind of kick it off with the the preliminary designs and kind of showing off, before we got what Buzz would ultimately look like. We got kind of the earliest concepts going back to the earlier pitches of Toy Story before Toy Story became about Woody and Buzz. Pete Docter's out there talking about how it was originally the Tin Toy, who is a character from earlier Pixar shorts, and the idea was that the Tin Toy was going to be the new fancy toy, a la your Buzz Lightyear, opposite a ventriloquist dummy toy, and so that ventriloquist dummy ends up turning into Woody, and the Tin Toy kind of ends up leveling up into Buzz. There's a lot of talk about, what kind of toy would everybody have wanted as kids? What was the must-have toy? And they talk about the action figure with the real karate chop action and all the buttons and all the things, and so that's ultimately what very much leads into the design of Buzz Lightyear. It was fun seeing kind of they show a lot of images of early designs for Buzz. They even show like an animatic of before he had the name Buzz Lightyear. I think there's Lunar Larry at one point is one of his like earlier names. So yeah, it was like a fun little trip down like into the Pixar archives to see all that. And then they kind of segue from a lot of that like early design work and early discussion of the character to just how much the character blew up in the after Toy Story becomes this huge success. Buzz Lightyear is basically where all of the merchandising goes. You can get like your Buzz Lightyear socks and shirts and costumes and all of the Buzz Lightyear things. The action figures, of course. They showed the Buzz Lightyear Lego set that you can get, and I'm saying the Buzz Lightyear. Oh, I forget what they call them, but they're basically like big blocky. Like it's almost like the Funko version of Lego, where it's like a big blocky character like interpretation made out of Lego bricks, and that segues into I think the director Angus MacLane talking a lot about the ideas behind Lightyear and what ends up bringing Buzz to the big screen. And the premise for those that don't know of Lightyear is this is effectively in the original Toy Story, Andy falls in love with this character Buzz Lightyear and gets the toy for Buzz Lightyear, and basically the Lightyear movie that is now coming out is the theoretical in-universe movie that Andy saw that got him super excited. So this is the character Buzz Lightyear that would go on to inspire the action figure Buzz Lightyear that we would get over the course of many, many Toy Story movies and spin-offs and stuff like that. And it's been a since like it got announced and Chris Evans was announced as attached to it. It was very much like this is confusing. What is the dynamic? This does a good job of like helping explain and solidify that. They also go into a lot of like the like themes and ideas about Lightyear that admittedly I've not seen yet and will hopefully try and see this weekend. But they introduce one of the plot points of Lightyear, which is as Buzz becomes like this experimental pilot, where they're experimenting with like time travel and stuff like that, and he goes on these test flights, and this has been seen a little bit in the trailers, I think to an extreme degree. But he goes on these test flights in the movie, where he's gone for like 4 or 5 minutes or something like that, and everyone around him through the scientific premise of time dilation has aged up multiple years because he's gotten so close to the speed of light that like he's moving faster, and everybody else relatively moves slower through life around him, kind of thing. It's an interesting thing because they put it in the context of when they're at the Pixar studios making their movies, they're heads down in their work for 3-4 years at a time, and then when they come out of making the movie, the world around them has changed, or obviously most recently with the pandemic. the world has changed in the years, and you end up kind of experiencing the world and the flow of time differently in that. And I thought that was a very interesting kind of perspective. One of my favorite little elements of this, going back to the Lego side of things, is Angus MacLean in talking about like how his design mentality kind of has come along. A lot of people kind of point to the fact that his medium is Lego bricks, and he will go out and create the starships that he wants designed out of Lego first, and then he kind of gives the Lego off to the Lego set off to like his designers, and they turn it into a 3D model and kind of mock it up. And I thought that was like a cool little thing. That's his version of storyboarding is creating these things out of Legos. Thought that was a lot of fun, and then must be a kick for him to now see Lego sets based on his movie out there in the real world. So yeah, this definitely did the trick of getting me more excited for Lightyear. I was already like, Pixar very rarely misses for me, so I was already excited to go see it. But this was a cool little story about the team and the history of Pixar told through the lens of Buzz Lightyear. And I thought one of the things that I think is really cool that they kind of end the documentary on is that Buzz is such a integral character in like the Pixar culture, in the Pixar work culture, and specifically the admittedly ludicrous idea of to infinity and beyond. That anybody who celebrates their 10-year anniversary working with the company gets a bronze statue of Buzz Lightyear as kind of their achievement and celebration. And I thought that was a cool little like item that ties a lot of these lifers or longtime Pixar people together, and as I think one of the people being interviewed for the documentary kind of points to, it's they've done this all together and will continue doing more and will go beyond. They've been through infinity and they will go beyond with the next chapter. So yeah, it was a cool thing. Also, there was a lot of fun, just kind of anecdotes and stories around as I'm looking at the logo here for the image for the Beyond Infinity documentary. They did a lot of they had a lot of fun figuring out what the design of Buzz Lightyear would look like as a human as opposed to the toy form of the character. And so, the idea of just, he has hair under that purple thing. Snood, I think, is what they end up calling it. He has hair under that, and we get to see that in this movie, obviously, from the trailers and stuff. And, the ideas that they kept to, like, pay homage to, obviously, the toy, but also figuring out how to give it more realistic proportions and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm very interested in seeing this movie. The Angus MacLean at one point says this isn't a movie about a hero becoming more heroic. This is about a non-hero becoming a hero. And so yeah, I'm excited to see the story of Buzz Lightyear in Pixar's latest film. So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this. Like I said, it's a little 35-minute documentary. Lots of cute little stories, a lot of fun like art, and just seeing early designs of Buzz Lightyear was a lot of fun. And yeah, I recommend it to any Toy Story fans out there. Really, definitely give it some time. In terms of report card, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So it's not really like doing anything super crazy documentary wise. So I'll probably just give it a B. Good. It knows its subject matter. There is definitely like a notable almost absence of John Lasseter, given that he's had some harassment allegations and troubles, and did not leave the company necessarily on good terms. but you do see him. Same with Tim Allen. You see them like in archival footage and stuff, in like early directing and recording sessions as Buzz Lightyear, or for the original Toy Story, and the fact that like neither of them are also being interviewed in this is certainly like noticeable, but I don't think it detracts. And honestly, if they're shitty people, I'm much happier to not give them a platform to speak and be celebrated in this sense. So yeah. Be a B from me. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. Unsurprisingly, going to be a lot of Toy Story stuff. The recommendations are Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4, Toy Story Toons Small Fry, Toy Story Toons Hawaiian Vacation, Toy Story That Time Forgot, and Toy Story of Terror. So basically all the Toy Story movies, and then some of the spin-off shorts and stuff like that. Other extracurriculars, the other things I'm watching on Disney Plus, of course, I'm continuing with Obi-Wan Kenobi. We had the penultimate episode this last week. Really enjoyed that. And then we had our second episode of Miss Marvel, which is just continuing to be a really good show. So, like I said, stay tuned next week for the kind of wrap-up episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We will talk about the full series, whoever I can get on board for that. Hopefully it's not just me. But at the same time, if they're not joining me for these other things, maybe I don't want to give them a platform for the Obi-Wan Kenobi one. Maybe they can just be like, meh, meh. Anyway. That's going to do it for this episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you for joining me to talk about, or to hear me talk about Beyond Infinity. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you liked what you heard, once again, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining me. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other. Class dismissed. To infinity and beyond!